Good afternoon. SMEs are constantly seeking new ways to raise funds, and with banks and other financial institutions requiring collateral that they don't always have, SMEs are constantly looking for alternative sources to fund various parts of their business. Crowdfunding is the latest avenue. Though many have associated it with social causes such as raising money for education, hospital bills, as well as funeral expenses, businesses are increasingly seeking and building crowds online that relate to their line of business and using those to raise the funds they need. But just how does crowdfunding work? We'll get into that this afternoon here on Business Now. And let me just let you know who we'll be speaking to in a moment. Linda Onyango is here with me. She's the CEO of the SME Support Center and recently conducted training on crowdfunding in the country. So we'll be looking forward to hearing what she thinks about it and getting into all of those issues. How do you build a crowd? How do you generate a campaign? All of that. And of course, if you've got any questions, comments as well, please do send them in. The hashtag is Business Now at Citizen TV Kenya, at Yvonne Okwara, or if you'd like to send us a text message, the number is 22422. We want to get into the news of the day now. So Kenya's e-commerce platform Jumia has marked its 10th anniversary by celebrating consumers and supporting sellers. Jumia Kenya CEO Betty Mwangi says the campaign shows the increasingly important role that e-commerce plays in the lives of Kenyans. Companies across the country are also turning to e-commerce as a channel to improve their sales and compensate for the disruption to traditional offline channels. And a local-based organization has embarked on the removal of the cactus plant in Laikipia owing to its destructive nature. The Loisaba Conservancy is pushing the plan, which will see it mechanically remove the plant, which has had a negative impact on wildlife and livestock in the area. The plant has taken over nearly 80% of land for grazing livestock and wildlife in some parts of the county.
Or rather testing a new species of cochineal that will hopefully help in destroying the cactus plants and bring it under substantial control too.
And finally, Huawei Kenya has increased its investments in the renewable energy sector. This follows the launch of new solutions for both home and enterprises at this year's Fusion Solar Summit held in Nairobi. The firm says the move is informed by a favorable policy environment that includes a progressive national energy policy and institutional regulation, with the expected establishment of the Rural Electrical and Renewable Energy Authority. All right, so you are now up to date. We'll get into our conversation, but also let me remind you that later on this program, as we do every single Monday, we'll be highlighting a business that's made in Kenya. And on the show this afternoon, we'll be taking a look at a young man building digital technology for businesses that are in the service sector. We'll get to that in just a moment. But first, our big conversation of the day, it's all about crowdfunding and how you can use that to raise revenue for your business. Linda Onyango, CEO of SME Support Center, is here with me. Linda, thank you so much. It's good to have you on the show finally.
Finally, thank you. Thank you so much for having me.
Thank you. We've been having this conversation for weeks because it sounds absolutely intriguing. So let's get into it. You know, many of us know crowdfunding from things like GoFundMe pages or maybe Mchanga, if you know, that's a type of crowdfunding.
Sure.
But tell us about crowdfunding and how it's being used to raise money for business. How does that work?
Okay, so crowdfunding, to demystify it, crowdfunding is really comes from the word crowd. So basically raising money from crowd, so from very many people from the public. And traditionally, crowdfunding in Africa or in Kenya specifically, we have used it for fundraising. So for hospital causes, or you have someone who's sick, we've used it in that way. That's really crowdfunding. It's only that it's not what is called, it's not for business. Yeah. So crowdfunding can be categorized into two. So there's investment crowdfunding, and then there is what you call the non-investment one. So the M-Changa is donation-based. Then we also have reward-based. Yeah, so reward-based is also where it's non-investment type. So the difference between donation and reward-based is really that for reward-based, people give you money, but you also give them some rewards. So you raise money, but you give people rewards from your business. I'll speak about that a little later. But then we have the investment crowdfunding, and that is really, you can do lending, equity, various investment structures through crowd as well. So crowdfunding is really that, raising money from the crowd. But then you can, what happened is that people created crowdfunding platforms that, that entrepreneurs can use to raise money in various forms, whether it's donation, reward, equity-based, or lending-based crowdfunding. Yeah.
So let's talk about each of those if we can. So, you know, sort of reward-based seems like, you know, you obviously get something in return. You know, can we talk about how reward-based crowdfunding works?
So reward-based crowdfunding is very simple. So through the platform, so an example is Thunder Fund. You can go and check Thunder Fund. That's the one we really is a partner of our organization, the SME Support Center. So basically what happens, so let's say you're a creative, or you're launching something in fashion, for example, you go and you go put your campaign. A campaign is basically telling us, I'm looking for this much money, and you put a story behind the campaign.
Your pitch.
Basically your pitch, yeah. And so what happens is that people who contribute for you in a crowdfunding platform like Thunder Fund, what happens is that you then give them a reward. So if you're, let's say, a fashion entrepreneur, you'll give them maybe a headband, or you decide what rewards you will give them. That's so it's really like an incentive, and also allows people to engage with your story. So yes, that's reward-based. Donation-based is like M-Changa, which is just really...
sort of like angel investors who just give you the money?
Yeah, so people like you and me, that's donation. So there you don't give them any reward as an entrepreneur. But then some platforms are actually lending-based, just the same way loans work. Some platforms are like that, where you just basically, what happens is that the investors in there give you a loan. So it's still a crowd, but they give you a loan. And then there are other forms like revenue share, where people give you money, but then they share a portion of your revenues, your sales as an entrepreneur. So there are various forms, but all in all, I think the bottom line is just it's all crowd. It's very many different small investors investing in you.
Yeah, and it's basically, you know, it's different from when, for example, you're either going to a bank or a financial institution, or to venture capitalists, or to an angel investor, where, you know, you're meeting Linda and you know this is the sort of work she does. But here you're actually building a crowd.
So
how do you do that?
How do you build a crowd?
How do you find a crowd that I guess would be interested in investing in your business?
So a crowd is your people. It's just to make it simple. Just the same way you're looking for money for a medical cause. Your mom is sick, you start with your phone book.
Okay.
You start with people in your phone book. And basically, actually, the success of any crowdfunding campaign is based on your own network, which is catch-22.
Okay.
Yeah, so what differentiates a successful campaign and an unsuccessful campaign is your network. So people always assume crowdfunding platforms have their own investors. What happens is that for the more established ones, obviously there are people who keep going to see, can I donate money here? Can I donate? So indeed, there could be some anonymous investors, but to be successful, if you're completely new, you start with the people in your phone book. So you look at, I think that's the first step, actually. You write everyone you can possibly send a campaign to, your network, your professional network, your colleagues, your family, friends, and so really, you start with who you know. That's how you start.
All right. And once you go onto this crowdfunding platform, sometimes you're able to find, you know, total strangers.
Sure.
And you're going beyond your phone book, whom you could then say you would then add them onto the platform and they form part of your crowd. So how do you then generate a campaign to people you have never seen, you don't know, are probably halfway across the world?
Sure.
How do you start to build a campaign on a platform where People don't know who you are.
So building a campaign is all about telling your story, like you mentioned, your pitch. Yeah. So one fun quote is that 80% of the people who invest in you, the 80% of giving is actually emotive. It's emotional. It's quite interesting. And then 20% is what is rational. So what you find is that the whole aspect of planning your campaign is extremely crucial. So like how you build your story. So always, I mean, if you started a business, I hope you started it as a mission-driven business. I mean, I speak a lot about that. Business, you must have a why of why you started. So building your campaign is really basically telling your story. It happens through, you can do 3-minute videos, just really illustrating what you're trying to do. You can do, so what happens is that for any crowdfunding platform, we guide you through that. So if you, let's say you come to the SME Support Center and you want to do crowdfunding, we currently work with Thunder Fund, who's based in South Africa and now Kenya. So we basically help you through that. We take you through training and we help you through understanding how to create your campaign. We also have so many samples of previous campaigns you can borrow from. They are all in, the good thing about crowdfunding, it's not a mystery. Everyone's story is somewhere on the platform. You can go and see how they're doing theirs. But basically it's really to tell your story in a more genuine way. Don't fake it. Yeah. Just tell it very well and have people and people will resonate, even the strangers will resonate, yeah.
So the first thing is obviously deciding what your pitch is and what your why is, because that will draw them in. So you create this video and then you post it on the platform and hope for the best?
Yes, so you post it on your platform, don't hope for the best. You take the link, you start sending it to people. You send it to people on WhatsApp, you send it to people everywhere. Like you send it everywhere, literally. So if you're a member of the center, what we are trying to do now is really, for the ones who come through us, we also try and spotlight you through our social media channels. We basically help you take it everywhere. So you basically throw it, the link, your campaign, you take it everywhere. As far as, just the same way you do social media, take it everywhere. It's as simple as that. That's especially for reward-based and donation-based, if I can explain it very simply. Yeah, just basically take your campaign everywhere. Yeah, that's how it works.
Yeah, and I suppose, you know, sort of like a social marketing campaign where you push it, you know, as much as you can. I'd like to talk about, you know, I mean, the reward-based, it's easy to figure out how that works. You know, maybe you would say if you donate $10 or 10,000 shillings or whatever it is, I will give you this in return. But what happens when it's those seeking equity? So how do you decide, you know, because these are many people, right? It's not one entity that says, okay, we'll give you 20% of the business or 30%, but these are many people, and sometimes they're giving small individual amounts. So what does that mean for the ownership of your company that now just suddenly has all of these people on board and, you know, they might want to be part of the decision-making process, and you know how complicated that can be the higher the number?
So for equity-based crowdfunding, it works a little bit different from reward and donation-based. So for equity-based crowdfunding, what happens is that there are typically guidelines and limits in terms of perhaps the number of investors up to what point you should reach. And typically, you have agreed all this upfront in terms of I'm giving 25% stake, which is the ideal. I recommend that, nothing more than 25%. So usually, also you get to select. That's a difference between the rest. So for equity-based, the transaction on the initial point of them expressing interest is just the first step. There's also what happens, they have collected, the platform has collected all your information, so your financial statements, all that. So you get to have discussions and decide how many you're bringing on board and so forth. So the crowdfunding campaign there just works to express interest and express those who are out there and increase the number of people you can speak to when it comes to the equity. But there are limits that you set. there are also limits as guided by the platform. So for equity-based platforms, not very common, I must say. For those for the viewers, if you are an SME out there, you can check out Trine, you can check out some of the ones, crowdfunder is mostly reward-based. So I think I counted just about not more than 5 accessible to Africans.
Okay,
yeah.
For equity.
For equity, okay. Yeah.
And that would be the interesting thing. And you've also just mentioned that, you know, the investors do their due diligence, because it sounds like, oh, this is easy. You put your campaign out there, and if people like it, they do it. But then there's also that important step, which I guess happens with just about every other type of funding that exists.
Sure.
So these companies do their individuals do their due diligence on you once you put your pitch there. Definitely.
For equity crowdfunding, there's a process on even which kind of businesses that they actually allow to crowdfund in there, and guidelines. So we take 3 years, or we take 2 years, or it's a startup, a tech startup, and so forth. So it's very guided. It's very, very guided. Yeah.
Yeah, and for the rewards and the donations as well, I would imagine people want to invest in something that looks like it's got, you know,
it's got potential.
It's got potential, and you know, the numbers are right, and the story actually adds up.
Yeah. So one of the things is you have to do your check as a crowdfunding platform, and that's where I guess the regulations will also really encourage a lot of that. You have to do your check on the SME or the entrepreneur. So first of all, you can't put something there that is fake. You know, you can't put a campaign, just anyone. Yeah, you have to sort of check, do they exist? Sort of.
Or is it something that's just been?
Yeah, is it?
You know, you can create a good video.
Yeah. Or you also check just a story behind them, how long they've existed and all. It's a much easier process for donation-based, and but what you try and do is, with a little due diligence, just authenticate that it's a true entrepreneur, it's a true story, because then it would be, especially for us at the center, it would be very embarrassing to put some of our SMEs in the crowdfunding platforms, and they're not people we sort of have seen that they're actually doing this. Their social media tells your story. They've been in this,
Do you do all the way, like going, you know, physical and saying, does this business really exist on the ground as opposed to on paper?
Most crowdfunding platforms, especially donation and reward-based, don't get to that level of, because it's not a loan. It's not like you need to sort of visit. But I think there is basic search that you can do about that the company exists, that you do. Like even through their social media, you check customers are happy. There's a lot in the digital world or in the internet.
That can still tell the story.
That still tell the story,
Linda, who are these people on the crowdfunding platforms who are willing to give money to businesses based on a pitch? Like, what's the profile of the people who are on these crowdfunding platforms?
Great, that's a very good question. Actually, you'll be very surprised, and that's why I'm very passionate about crowdfunding. Do you know how many platforms are available for African entrepreneurs? 65.
Wow.
So basically, you can create your pitch in about 65 platforms. Across the world. So basically, if you want to know these platforms and all that, I'll speak about the process of registering at the center later, but this is information we give for free. It's a bonus service at the center. So who are these people? Who are the profile of people? They're people like you and me. The culture of only donating to social causes is something, as a behavior in Africa, we must begin to change. Because I believe we need to start investing in our businesses, right? So people like you and me who go into the crowd, then there are a lot of people, philanthropists, who are looking for places to donate. People perhaps, you see NGOs. It's not new. NGOs used to have that button, just donate. Many NGOs have that, donate. So a lot of people believe in philanthropy, especially Europe. I mean, how do I say, foreigners? Or
So they are actually present on those crowdfunding platforms?
Yes, especially for the ones that are very Kickstarter, for example, the ones that are very, how do I call it? They've existed for a while, and the ones that draw in a lot of these investors. The older your platform is, I'm sure, and the experience it has, it may have one or two, it may have attract a lot of these guys. But you'll be surprised, they have many philanthropies. Even you donate, I think in Kenya we only do it for when there's a huge national cause, maybe on hunger and etc. But it's very possible, instead of spending that amount of money on 5K, spending 5,000 bob, $5.
You can give that to a business. You
can give that to a business. I mean, it's something we must drum. It's something we need to begin to change some more and have a lot of people appreciate. Obviously, with the regulations, maybe people will trust the crowdfunding platforms more. And really, also for us who really propose, who really support crowdfunding, will be able to bring a lot of good businesses there.
And which would attract the right investors.
Exactly.
I'd like you to hold that thought for a moment. We want to take a break. When we come back, there's much to talk about, including which types of businesses, attract funding more than others. Is it, startups or those somewhere midway in the life of the business? And also the great issue about regulation, that is a big thing. Obviously, where money is involved, you would expect some form of regulation and how that works. So we've got that and much more when we return here on Business Now. It's crowdfunding for SMEs. Have you thought about that as a way of raising funds for your business? Well, we've got all the details for you. We'll also be talking about what crowdfunding platforms are out there. We've heard there's 65 for Africa alone. Are there others you could pitch to that, are outside of the continent? We'll be getting that and more from Linda Onyango. She's the CEO of the SME Support Center. She's here with me also. Send in your questions. The hashtag is Business Now. Welcome back. You're watching Business Now, and we're talking about crowdfunding. So listen, we do harambes, I'm sure that's a word you know, right? Tunafanya mchango, you know that. And it turns out that now you can use that as a means to raise funds for your business. Linda Onyango, who's the CEO of the SME Support Center, is still here with me, taking us through crowdfunding for SMEs and how that works. So we've talked quite a bit about the various methods that are out there, reward-based donation and also equity. And I'm seeing your questions. I'll be posing them to Linda in just a moment. But I think one of the questions that I'd said we wanted to get into is which types of businesses, attract funding on crowdfunding platforms? Is it those in the service sector? Is it the tech ones? And at what stage of their life are they? Is it the startups or, kickstarted? At what point?
At what point, yeah. So crowdfunding, where it fits in the funding cycle, is really ideal for early stage. Let me not use complex words, but I say for tech, if you have an idea, it's also ideal. So that period where you're looking for money to just maybe pilot your business, start your business, or really you have had your business 2 years. For investment kind of crowdfunding, those are more experienced. You need 2 years and above and so forth. But it can fit both. If you have a unique idea, innovative, it can fit both very early on as an idea. And it also suits traditional businesses, micro enterprises, creatives, music, art. Fashion. Yeah, so like the platform that we use or we've partnered with is Thunder Fund or Tunda Fund, whichever you like to pronounce. Is we are really keen on creatives, fashion, and things that we can put on the crowd. So normal traditional businesses would also fit, tech startups would also fit, and so forth. So the difference is that when it comes to certain kinds of platforms, whether it is equity and lending platforms, they begin to have some sort of criteria in form of maybe age of business and so forth. But early on, some of the donation ones, the reward ones, even when you're just 1 year old in business, 6 months, or you have a unique idea, you could try and use.
Are there some platforms that are specific? So are there some for the creative sector? Are there some for maybe retail? Are there some for tech? Is that
No, generally, no. It's not very specific.
So which means you can be, and you can be on more than one platform
you can
at
be
the
more,
same time?
You can be on more than one platform.
Okay.
You can be on more than one platform. I've not seen that as a challenge, but the challenge is more on you, the entrepreneur, because why would you be promoting to platforms?
Well, I guess you're trying to,
to have seed
and see how much you can get.
Because one thing I was talking about, because crowdfunding also heavily depends on your own network.
Okay.
How much money you raise depends on your own network. So it's good not to spread yourself, like I'm on 10 platforms and etc. Maybe 2, maybe 1 Kickstarter. And also you have to be very careful which one am I going for. Because some Kickstarter has a mixture of both entrepreneurs and sometimes social causes. You have to be very careful that you go for the ones that maybe are only entrepreneurs, like Thunder Fund. That's why we partnered with them, because it's mostly, there's no social cause. It's mostly entrepreneurs. So you have to do some choosing. You have to also go into these sites. These sites are not, they're not hidden. The good thing about crowdfunding, it's not hidden.
Yeah, because I'm like, where do you get
even if you just go to Kickstarter, you'll see the campaigns and you also see the track record, the success rates. You'll be able to see these people had a target of maybe 100K, $100,000 or something, but then they raised 50K. You can begin to see which platforms have higher success rates. This is open information. You just go and click past campaigns. Crowdfunding is very open, donation and reward based, very open.
So it's open, and you're able to see how much
each person
has raised,
how much each company has raised, what campaign they used, what rewards they give. It gives you ideas. What rewards did they give? What did they do? So it's very...
And speaking of that, there have been some successful ones. What would you say the ones... Do we have any examples of those who've successfully done this? Because it's pretty new. So some people are saying, well, I mean, has anyone ever done this successfully? And what has been the sort of secret to their success?
So the secret to the success is really, you don't go into it blindly. You have to plan. Like step 1, what message am I trying to communicate? Step 1 also is, who is in my network? Who can I interest? Who is in my network's network that I can interest? So it's a way of pitching or sharing your idea. And really, success is really a function of how well you prepared your story, and so forth, that it's catchy. Even the rewards that you give, it's just been creative. Even the rewards that you give, what sort of rewards do you give? Maybe if you're in a car wash, I can give an example of one in South Africa. It's actually in the Thunder Fund, the one we've partnered with. It's just uniquely did car wash, and it offered car washes, free car washes for people. And the way they campaigned, the way they made the whole story around car wash is very easy. It's for you to...
And people donated money to
people donated,
business?
yes. It's actually in the website. You can go and check all these things. So it's very easy. It calls for your creative juices. The content planning, don't just put shoddy work. The content planning, how am I going to do this? How do I make this catch on? That people will be so excited to partner with me. And like I said, funding is emotive. 80% of it is emotive and not rational. So you have to be able to plan that.
How long does it take typically? I mean, because, it's sort of different from a bank where you go in and you place your application and they ask you for all, of course, all your corroborating documents. And they'll get back to you once they've done their due diligence. But, you put your campaign there, then you wait. You wait, and you wait, and you wait. Is there any, in terms of just how patient should you be, and at what point should you say, okay, I've waited 3 months, 6 months, a year, maybe nobody's doing this. Either I refresh my campaign or just, consider it not successful.
So the length of the campaign, I see in the regulations they're trying to specify that. They're trying to specify the length of the campaigns to be nothing more than, I think, 90 days. Yeah, but on average, anything more than 90 days, if you, like, to reach as many people as possible, or do you take your campaign out there? 90 days is a good time to start assessing, is this making sense for me? Is it raising? There are crowdfunding campaigns that are not successful.
Yeah.
You have to be aware of that.
Okay.
They're not successful, and they're not successful because of various factors. And one, like I said, is mostly, it relies on the strength of your network and how you push your message out there a lot. It relies really on the strength of your network. I'm not saying if you're not networked, don't use crowd. Just use the same example. If you're raising, unfortunately, it's sad for me to use this example. If you're raising money for maybe your mom is sick, people really contribute, right? And so people contribute because they want to support you and all. So it's really to get people, your crowd, whether they have a lot of money or not, people generally contribute to causes they really have belief in, and etc. So even Yvonne here, even myself, anyone who comes across, this is cool. I could give, I can give even 1,000 bob. I do that a lot. Okay. I check campaigns where I can give something. So it's not that you need to have high net worth.
Yeah, because I'm thinking I don't know millionaires.
Yeah, no, you don't need to.
I don't know philanthropists.
Yeah, it's just your friends, your colleagues, your buddies. We just need to. The problem is that it's not a culture that is normalized. But once it's normalized, people will be going into these crowdfunding platforms and looking at people that they can support and really support a lot of the young entrepreneurs and creatives. So it is possible,
And I just want to talk a little bit about, with philanthropists and everything. We've seen, even for, let's say, typical NGOs in that space, they're suffering from donor fatigue.
Sure.
And there's a very big push internationally where countries, donors, philanthropists are now more nationalist, are now looking inward. Many NGOs are now starting to talk about sustainable funding and finding a way to generate their own revenue. Is that something that is likely to be experienced in crowdfunding?
The main difference between crowdfunding for entrepreneurship, it's already a commercially sustainable business. In essence, you're raising money so that you can create your own revenue. I think where the push is coming from is that traditionally for NGOs it was just really grants. So let me give you money, but you're perpetually dependent on the grant system. But what they're being pushed more is really to be commercially sustainable and not to be dependent on the grant system. So inherently, a crowdfunding campaign that is from an entrepreneur is already commercially, assuming it's commercially sustainable, because it's a business, and at the end of the day, it's about funds. What we now need to do more to really make crowdfunding stick is really, how do we, for the people who contributed in the crowd, how do we show the success or what the money was used for? How do we get back?
You still have to be accountable.
Exactly, right? Yes. How do we get back to them to create that culture where people are giving? How do we get back to people and show them this is where the money was used. This is what we have grown from here to here. So more stories on the ones that have successfully raised. That's where I think the missing gap is. But the more we do that,
then the more people want to donate and give that. Let's take this question from Bruce. It says, now that crowdfunding is like giving out loans, does it mean there is interest rates charged on the loans received? And will they require security for the loan? It's back to what we're saying. We still think traditionally in terms of, loans. So I guess maybe just to reiterate and recap for him.
So crowdfunding, Bruce, crowdfunding is, there are several. There are those that are for loans, but there are those ones that it's not a loan. People are giving you money. I take it like a grant. They're just donating. They're giving you money as a contribution to your business. It sounds like it's unreal, but friends and family, in some instances, they do that all the time. You see a good idea.
You go to an uncle, you go to your parents, and you say, I need 10,000. You say, I need 50, and that sort of thing.
So it's just the same way. It's only that this time it's in a platform. It's in a platform, and you can attract even strangers who really want to support you based on your story.
And with the equity one, it is that they will require a certain portion of ownership.
Exactly, right? So equity is basically selling a part of your company in exchange for cash.
And I guess that's important for him to understand that. I think he had a second question, and I'm going to try and get to that. He'd asked about information. Yeah, here it is. I found it. He said, is there a way I can reach them, either through an email or their website? Bruce says he has a brilliant idea. He's hatched up with a friend, but they need support. And the thing that's been holding them back is finance.
Okay, so what you could do is you could get in touch with us. Getting through the center is very easy. It's very interesting. Our model is you can access us anywhere, anytime. So basically go to our website, SME Support Center. Then you'll see a button that says register. So register in there. You can tick that you're interested in crowdfunding. So what happens is that all our services are aggregated in our website. So you'll just go to the register button, fill in the registration form, tick that you're interested in crowdfunding, and someone will get back to you on the details and will actually link you up with the Tunda Fund.
And let's talk about that sort of support that SME Support Center is doing together with Thunder Fund and what you're doing. So, I mean, I have this great idea, but I have no idea where to begin. I don't even know crowdfunding platforms.
Sure.
So when we come to you, what do we get?
So when you come to us, when you expressly tick the service, so you can tick the service, like I said, on our register button on the website, SME Support Center, go to the register button, click the registration form. If you're completely new, tick the service. When you tick that service, within, I think, typically we get back to everyone, 24 to 48 hours. We get back to you. And what happens is that because we don't have a crowdfunding platform ourselves, so we work with a company called Thunder Fund. Yeah, so they're based out of South Africa. I think it's the leading African crowdfunding platform specifically for entrepreneurs. Specifically for entrepreneurs, no social causes. So what you do is basically once you tick the service, our team will send you the information that you require. What we do is we also check you out. If you're just, normally when you fill our registration form, you can tell what age you are. Because it's a pre-screening form. We can tell you're 0 years in business, 1 year. We try as much as possible to have those that at least have started rather than 0 years. I always encourage those ones that are 0 years. Start somewhere. I don't know what his idea is. I know some will say, oh, I need money for a machine. I can't start somewhere. But always start with some money from your family, friends. Friends, if you can't convince a friend, how will you convince strangers, How will you convince strangers? Yeah, so start somewhere and at least be 6 months. 6 months somewhere there. But there's no harm. He can engage the Thunder Fund team directly and just see if he's still going to be viable. I don't know what his idea is or which sector and etc. But to access the services at the center is very simple. Yeah,
and you recently did training for that. What sort of feedback did you get, from those who attended
the training?
Yeah, because it's still pretty a new idea for us. Here in this part of the world. So
it was quite interesting, and a lot of people were very, very interested. But of course, with the realities of it, a lot of people were a bit skeptical.
Right.
But what happens out of that, we had 10 people express interest in creating their own campaigns. So we are currently now on that process where we are supporting them or getting them
getting them ready to actually now put out
or just giving them not ready per se, but giving them we already give them all the information they need. Just I think some of them are just they've not gotten themselves there to actually create the campaigns. That's the challenge we are facing. We have 7 people who've expressed 30 people expressed interest, but after going through everything, I think about 10 decided they will actually do it, but their campaigns are not yet live. So you won't see them.
Just as we close, the issue of regulation, because where there's money, there must be some form of regulation that just ensures that everybody is safe and everybody is functioning according to the law. Now, because this is something that's happening digitally, what sort of regulation are we likely to see? What sort of proposals have been out there? I do believe C.S. Okuriyatani talked about it when he was presenting the budget in terms of regulation for crowdfunding.
So I saw that regulation, 2021 regulation. Traditionally, crowdfunding, you could just set up a platform and have the money, have people raise money from the crowd and then give the money to the entrepreneur. So basically what the platforms do, or the owners of the platform, is collect the money, take a commission for you using the platform, and then they give you back the difference. Now, regulations are intended to ensure some sort of public trust in these platforms. Perhaps, it will definitely increase the uptake, or even investors like ourselves, more people going into the platforms. So it's a step in the right direction. I have looked at the regulations. Obviously, there's quite a few requirements to now be a crowdfunding platforms. Once those ones are approved, you'll have to be licensed.
Yes.
I think is it a 10 million bob share, paid up share capital as a crowdfunding platform.
Okay.
And there's quite a lot of requirements. A step in the right direction. Obviously, there are a few things we can add in there, as in any regulations. But I think it's a step in the right direction. We need to entrench crowdfunding as a tool for helping entrepreneurs, especially young entrepreneurs, raise funds. It's really a step in the right direction.
Great. Thank you. Linda Onyango, CEO, SME Support Center. Thank you for speaking with us on this issue. And of course, looking forward to talking about this a little bit more. Thank you for your time here on Business Now. Thank you for watching the show. Have a good afternoon. I will see you again at 4 o'clock with another news update. Good afternoon.